Chapter 651. That was indeed the case. Everyone knew that the National League would become more and more difficult as the competition progressed, because the opponents they encountered would constantly become stronger. Chen Guang had been using a sorcerer since the very beginning. Many people couldn't take down Galaxy because of his ace sorcerer. It was said that his positioning, skills, and control over time were extremely sensitive. Apologies. Lin Feng came down from the 2v2, his fingers clenched tightly. Galaxy was indeed strong. So strong that he couldn't keep up. I should be the one apologizing. Coco stood there, his head hanging low. If I hadn't died so quickly, I wouldn't have lost. His captain had told him a long time ago that he needed to improve. But before he could improve to a certain level, the National League had started. Coco started to seriously consider if he should do fewer live streams in the future so that he could have more time to train his hand speed. But regardless of the reason, it couldn't be used as an excuse for his poor performance. With that, Bojio stood up, smiling faintly as she tugged at the black wrist guard on her right hand. She tilted her head and smiled. It's fine, we'll help you win it back. She was referring to us. She wasn't referring to herself. The five of them stood in a line, giving off an indescribable sense of handsomeness when they walked onto the stage. It was an aura that wouldn't get tired of even after watching it many times. The shoutcasters were still shaking their heads, not having high hopes for the match. Spade Z sorcerer won't be able to control Chen Guang. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. A sound effect came from the screen. Spade Z, assassin. In that instant, the shoutcasters were confused. Wait a minute, shouldn't Spade Z be a sorcerer? What was going on with the assassin? A commotion broke out over at Galaxy. It seemed like the situation was out of their expectations. True Spade fans found it normal. My big Spade is an assassin, it's perfect for him. The shoutcasters were in a daze. What's wrong? Just that one sentence was enough to send a shock through everyone. That's right, how could they forget that the newcomer king of Zone C was best at using assassins? Even now, the video of Spade Z using assassins to kill 5 players was still being spread like wildfire. That was why he had no intention of playing as a mage in the first place. The youngster did not look around. Instead, he gestured to his teammates and put on the headphones with his right hand. The shoutcaster only snapped out of his daze when he heard the sound of entering the game. Anyone who used the assassin class would know that they should first kill monsters to level up, then kill people. Furthermore, using an assassin to kill someone required a certain level of skill. Chen Guang knew Spade Z wasn't easy to deal with. He controlled the character with his fingers, his voice low. Be careful of Spade Z's ambush. Don't worry, Captain. We'll only defend and not attack. We'll wait for you to take control later. However, that was what he said, but when it came to the real fight, you can't just defend and not attack. One of the members of the space troopers defended the tower very well. He was facing 2 enemies at once, but neither of them attacked him. His HP was running low, so he wanted to return to the city while he was safe under the tower. But that person forgot one thing. Chapter 652. On the screen, everyone could clearly see the youngster's beautiful finger technique. It was so fast that they couldn't even see it clearly. The assassin with the name Spade Z had already rushed under the opponent's tower. With a big move, he killed someone and then jumped over the wall. The music started playing. Kill. A perfect tower kill. A stunning first kill. Instantly, the crowd was in an uproar. The player who had returned to the city hadn't expected Spade Z to suddenly appear. How insane was his hand speed to reach such a level? But that wasn't the end. The figure didn't return to the city. Instead, after jumping out, he went straight for the assassin in the jungle. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Along with the exciting music, 2 huge words appeared on the screen. Double kill. Amazing. When the commentator said these 2 words, he slammed the table. His excitement was no less than that of the live audience. Everyone was requesting for the replay to be slowed down. Because when Spade Z killed the first player, his speed was too fast. Even the full-view audience couldn't figure out when the figure had started to sweep past the jungle and head for the tower. The scene made everyone's blood boil. Spade Z playing as an assassin really makes people want to become his fan. These were the shoutcaster's words. It wasn't because of anything else but the youngster's technique and maneuvers. There wasn't a single pause when he killed someone. There was only one word that could describe it. Was awesome. At this moment, Chen Guang started to feel more confident. He knew clearly that they wouldn't be able to win this team battle. As soon as the match started, Spade Z had already completed the first kill. It was obvious that the opponent didn't intend to take down the tower this time, choosing to sweep the entire way. Chen Yiguang wasn't sure if it was a coincidence or the youngster's plan. If it was the latter, Spade Z was terrifying. For a sorcerer, starting a battle in the jungle was his weakness. His usual calculations had to be readjusted. There were too many bushes in the jungle. It was easy to control one person but difficult to control many. Chen Yiguang had already used his big move twice. Supreme Alliance did have casualties, but if the opponent died they would lose 4 on their side. When he ran from the jungle to the tower, he didn't dare to lose too much HP. Because it was very likely that Spade Z would cross the tower and kill him. He had never experienced such a feeling before. The current Supreme Alliance, no, it should be Spade Z, was so strong that he couldn't handle him. Without Chinemo they would be able to win the match. But now Chen Yiguang realized something. After Chinemo left, Spade Z came. The youngster with the title of Rookie King wasn't any worse than Chinemo. Just thinking about it, Chen Yiguang's fingers were trembling. Without Chinemo around, Supreme Alliance was already so powerful. If Chinemo came back, how strong would Supreme Alliance be? With such a question, StarCraft lost the match. Just as the shoutcaster had said, Spade Chin's plan wasn't to attack the city, but to kill everyone. Supreme Alliance won. She won so much that everyone wanted to shout, "Beautiful!" On the other hand, the atmosphere in the Interstellar Alliance was a little gloomy. In order to prepare for the National League, every team had exhausted all of their efforts. No one wanted to lose. Everyone hoped that they could fight one more round. Even if it was just one more battle, it would be fine. Chapter 653. Lin Feng could understand what kind of feeling that was. Back when Supreme Alliance hadn't even made it through the regional competition, he had felt the same way. Hence, when the galactic members walked over, they removed their headphones. Some of them were tearing up. It was obvious how much they were suppressing. Chen Yiguang was the calmest among them. He reached out to Bojio. "I hope I can meet you again in the coming year. By then the galactic won't be as weak as before." "I believe you." The youngster smiled. "The galactic members are full of potential, especially Captain Chen. You are too hard to kill. If it wasn't for the revival of your teammates and the fact that I have so many people on my side, I wouldn't have been able to kill you alone. Your control is too strong." Chen Yiguang thought that he really shouldn't look at boring gossip. Spade Z was a character that all esports players had to take seriously. It had nothing to do with how unorthodox he was, because his skills were there for all to see. After the handshake, the two teams were supposed to return to their respective resting areas. But at this moment, Chen Yiguang wasn't satisfied. He paused and turned to the youngster. "I have a question that I would like to know the answer to. Was it a coincidence that you started the battle in the wilderness, or, of course it was planned?" Bojio glanced over, her side profile ravishing. The battle in the wilderness weakens the sorcerer's control to a certain extent, making it easier for the assassin to move. Captain Chen is such a strong opponent, it's only natural that we try our best to restrain him. With that, Chen Yiguang's remaining indignation vanished. Because this young man was truly too strong. He was so strong that even if he lost to him he wouldn't feel depressed. Instead, he wanted to have another exchange of blows. Chen Yiguang walked over to the member who was wiping his tears, patting his shoulders. "We'll try again next year. Trust me, the Galactic will be stronger next year." MMH. A team with the same beliefs. They would definitely become stronger. The youngster retracted her gaze from Chen Yiguang. The moment she lowered her head, she saw Princess looking at her with narrowed eyes. Bojio arched a brow, suppressing him with her hands. Princess exploded into a ball. "You rascal, when Master comes back I'll definitely get him to replace you. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you look good. If you give me another candy I can consider tolerating you." Without a doubt, the MVP of this match was Bojio. 9 kills, 0 deaths and 5 assists. In a situation where each member of the opposing team could only die 3 times. This kind of battle record was enough to make anyone's face bleed. Someone guessed, Spade Z must have switched back to his best assassin for the next match. However, the next day, the youngster chose to be a long-range shooter during the team battle. Marksman? Not a mage, not an assassin, but an archer? What kind of joke was this? However, it turned out that he wasn't joking. Even though he was playing as an archer, the young man still won the MVP of that match. Just like that, Bojio played through all 3 characters. Finally, someone couldn't help but ask, "Spade Z, don't tell us that you can play any character." The young man hugged the cat, his hands in his trouser pockets, and with a lollipop in his mouth, he raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "I am." After listening to the interview, The Professional Alliance's chat group exploded. One had to know that the group consisted of all the gods in the esports circle, and they wouldn't easily explode. But today was different. Holy sh*t, what's going on? Another all-rounder? Chinmo's nemesis, come out, let's have a good chat. Why is your little spade so all-rounder? Chapter 654. The Professional Alliance was messing around in the WeChat group. After all, after 7 consecutive days of competition, everyone wanted to relax. But what they didn't expect was, Chinmo really came out. Enrich, just one word, calm and composed. This made the members of the various battle teams rub their eyes hard. Chiniguang asked, am I seeing things? Is Chinmo here? No, Iguang, you aren't seeing things. A certain someone is really here. It was the top assassin in the country, Lin Chintao. Of course, the members of Xiangnan were also in the group, all of them top-notch players. Is Spade Z really an all-rounder? Chiniguang asked. Lin Chintao replied, I remember he has always been an assassin since his hand speed is the most suitable. Is Spade Z in the group? Xiangnan's vice-captain, Zhao Sanpeng, was a chatterbox. Ask him. Someone glanced at the sky. How is that possible? Have you forgotten how old the people in the group are? He's just a high school student. Hey, I'm not old. Chiniguang replied, I'm only 20, it's the prime of a man's life. Lin Chintao smirked. I'm 18, I'm forever 18. North of Een Mountain. Uncle Een, get Chinmo's nemesis to drag his little spade in. Zhao Sanpeng was really fat and his greatest wish was to destroy Chinmo. Chinmo's deep eyes stared at the chat box in the group. He sat on the bed, his slender fingers moving, pulling the poker profile picture into the chat. Bojio hadn't seen the person who had invited her, hence she had left the group. After that, Bojio realized who had sent it. She opened the chat window. Chinmo arched a brow, pulling her for the second time. This time she wasn't going to leave. But she wasn't going to enter. The moment she entered, she realized the usernames in the group were extremely familiar. They were all people she would be facing in the future and they were all godly players. Back when Feng Yi had been explaining, she had seen their information many times. If those fangirls knew that these esports gods were in the same WeChat group, they would probably go crazy. Zhao Sanpeng, hi little spade, let me introduce myself. I'm the face of this group, handsome Zhao. Lin Chintao, add 2 words in front of looks, negative number. Zhao Sanpeng, Lin, I'm angry. Let's fight. Come on, let's 2v1. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Zhao Sanpeng replied, you're just bullying with numbers. Look at little spade, it's always a 1v2. We're both assassins, but why is there such a huge difference? Come, little spade, newbie, report your measurements and sexual orientation. Bojio cleverly avoided these 2 questions and typed with a smile. Handsome brother Zhao gave himself that title? 66666. Self-sealing is the main point, no explanation needed. Spectating forcefully. The others also came. In an instant, many people appeared. Chiniguang said, so you guys are here. Little brother Iguang, big sister will tell you, big sister cut my nails especially for you and dyed them rose red. The next time I kill you, my attack power will increase by a notch. Be careful, my baby. The person who spoke was Xiangnan sorcerer Luo Luojiang. She was indeed beautiful, but her fighting style was savage and she specifically targeted Chiniguang. Chapter 655. Zhao Sanpeng didn't care about the others and sent a serious emoji. I didn't expect that I would be so famous. You've heard of Little Spade before you joined the group, right? Are you treating me as the greatest opponent in your life the moment you see me? One of Chinmo's hands hung down, the other holding the business tablet. He was just about to type something. A line of words appeared on the screen. Spade Z, I already have my biggest rival, my captain. Zhao Sanpeng, you have good foresight. You have the same goal as me. Spade Z, Xiangnan's Captain Xiao, leave the group and train. Zhao Sanpeng, who was caught by his boss, immediately pretended to go offline. Goodbye, little spade from Chinmo's family. Let's discuss how to defeat him in the future. Bojio nodded. Little spade from Chinmo's family. Bojio didn't reply, instead she took a screenshot and sent it to Chinmo. This isn't the Xiangnan I imagined. Chinmo glanced at the photo, his voice faint. Most of the people in Xiangnan are still normal, there has to be an exception. In other words, Zhao Sanpeng wasn't normal. The Almighty's venomous tongue was as sharp as ever. Bojo tapped open the long message on WeChat. After listening to the pleasant male voice, she pondered for a moment before sending a video chat over. Chinimo, who was wearing a hospital gown, raised his eyebrows and agreed. A fat cat playing happily with a ball of yarn suddenly appeared on the screen. Then, the handsome face of the young man appeared. The princess seems to be very interested in things like balls of string. It is indeed the nature of cats. The chubby white cat seemed to have heard someone calling its name. It jumped over and saw its owner's face appear on the young man's phone. It immediately stretched out its neck and called out, "Master, it's this fellow who uses me as a hand warmer every day. But don't worry, this fellow can't do anything to me for the time being, let alone shave my fur. I'm still the world's most handsome meow." Bojo pressed down on the cat's paw to stop it from touching the phone. On the other end of the video call, Chinamo looked at the man and the cat and said slowly, "It seems like you guys are getting along well." Bojo and Princess tilted their heads at the same time. Not bad? If it was a small fight every day and a big fight every 3 days, it would be a good way to get along. In that case, they could indeed be considered pretty good. Is the Almighty sure he's not being sarcastic? Bojo glanced at the handsome man on the screen. Even though he was wearing a hospital gown, he was still mesmerizingly handsome. It seemed like the Almighty wanted to be taken home and raised. He decided to find a place to prop up his phone so that he could see it more clearly. What he didn't know was that when he moved, the phone's camera moved down and just happened to shine on the half of his calf that was exposed. Chinmo's fingers paused and his deep eyes darkened. He did not remind the young man to raise the camera. Instead, he just watched without shifting his gaze. Because even if he closed his eyes, that scene would still remain in his mind. White, smooth, and clean to the point that there was only fluff left. Very few boys would be like this. But it wasn't like there weren't any. Moreover, that guy was already late in puberty. He wasn't very tall either. Even that place was probably very clean. You still want to compare size with me? Chinamo lifted the corner of his lips. He would give the youngster a chance to compete with him. Chapter 656. Alright, that's a good image. Bojo moved the chair, her legs apart as she watched the man in the hospital gown. Brother Imo, you are really handsome. Chinamo wanted to say something. But just then, a notification came from the Alliance chat. Lin Chintao, F***CK, I just went to the Japanese server and they're causing a ruckus. Who wants to join me? Wooly Taotao, you're being naughty again. Why aren't you training properly? Luo Luojiang sent a nail-blowing emoji. Lin Chintao, the people on the Japanese server were just saying on the World Channel that all Chinese girls who play online games are either dinosaurs or fat chicks. Luo Luojiang had been smiling a second ago, but the next she sent a message. Tell me where he is, I'm going to destroy him. Lin Chintao, join the Japanese server, let's go together, their team is still around. Japanese server? You guys are playing together again? Count me in. Lin Feng popped up. Lin Chintao sent a shoulder-slapping emoji. Look at me, I'm an assassin and so are you. We aren't compatible, you're Yun who can go. Alright, wait, I'll bring De Hu over. Even if he couldn't go personally, he could watch from the side. We have the support, we're lacking a tank. Where's the tank? Hurry. Luo Luojiang shouted. This team is indeed arrogant, their results aren't bad, they haven't lost yet. Qin Guang, the tank isn't around, it's game over. His name is Chinamo, Luo Luojiang replied. He can be a tank too. Lin Chintao, don't you have his WeChat? We've never chatted before. Besides, are you dumb? I confessed to him in the past but he rejected me. Is it appropriate to speak to him alone? Luo Luojiang placed her hands on her hips. I have my pride. Lin Chintao. That won't do, I can't find him. Little Spade probably knows how to use a tank too, Lin Feng said. Luo Luojiang replied immediately, if it's Little Spade, it doesn't matter how many times I get rejected. Leave the invitation to me. Lin Chintao, you sound like you're taking advantage of the situation. Shut up, I'm going to invite my Little Spade. Luo Luojiang was in a good mood. However, there was one person whose mood couldn't be so beautiful. Qin Imo frowned as he looked at the chat history. My Little Spade? It seemed like he had really underestimated someone's ability to seduce. Luo Luojiang was a straightforward girl. Under normal circumstances, a girl who was good at gaming would be decisive in her actions. Little Spade, aren't you bored after a day of rest? We're opening the Black Japanese server and we're lacking a tank. Can you play as a tank? Bojo didn't have time to look at the group chat. When she saw this sentence, she typed a sentence beautifully. I can play. Which server is it on the Japanese server? I'm going in. As expected, this youth was different from the others. Luo Luojiang glanced at the empty chat, the corners of her lips lifting. This was how gaming should be. Chapter 657. But as esports players, they didn't think that way. In any case, there was only one sentence. As long as I'm satisfied. After all, the other party was indeed arrogant. In reality, there would be some exclusivity in different servers. But this time, it was obvious that they were targeting China. China's esports has just started. Some Chinese players shouldn't embarrass themselves. Be careful not to get killed. Seeing this, the 5 of them immediately formed a team. The person on the other side was still laughing. Seems like there really are people who aren't afraid of death. Let's fulfill their wish. After he finished speaking, with a click, the door was pushed open. Someone walked in from outside. The slender figure seemed to have just woken up. He was still wearing home clothes, and his entire person exuded a kind of laziness and cleanliness. If it wasn't Hoshino, who else could it be? What's so funny? The person sitting beside the computer looked up. Vice Captain, come over and take a look. Someone actually dares to challenge us. Don't they know that our reserve team is strong? You're causing trouble in the Japanese server again. As Hoshino spoke, he picked up the magazine on the coffee table. Be careful not to kick a metal board. Some Chinese players aren't easy to deal with. I can't tell. The person was still laughing. One of them was killed many times by us just now. He was indignant and called for reinforcements. Even though he died because of his teammates, it's impossible for them to win against the Japanese's second main force with just a new batch of teammates. Vice Captain, I'm going to talk to you. The game is starting, it's time to torture. Whoosh! The music blared. Even though Hoshino was sitting on the sofa, he could hear the sounds of fighting. However, it didn't affect his reading of the magazine. There had been no traces of Z recently. Hoshino knew that she had erased all traces. However, it was fine as long as she was fine. Hoshino raised his hand, switching to another magazine. He propped his chin on one hand, sitting there. The person in front of the computer kept moving the mouse. Was it an illusion? Why did it feel like time was passing so slowly this time? But it didn't matter. Since the people over there liked to waste time, then he would slowly waste time with them. Are you here to catch me? The man looked at the screen and smirked. I'm not that easy to catch. As the archer with low HP ran into the defense tower, Lin Chintao muttered to Yun Hu, D***, he escaped. In the wilderness, a tank activated his sprinting skill. Like a gust of wind, he swept across the grass, jumped up and crouched forward. Go. The member of the Japanese team sitting in front of the computer was stunned. He really didn't expect that someone would leap over the tower and take his life. Did that tank think he was an assassin? How dare he cross the tower from so far away? In fact, it wasn't just his opponents who reacted this way. Even Lin Chintao was dumbfounded. Why do I feel like I'm an extra assassin? Is this how a tank is supposed to be used? Shouldn't the tank be at the front? Oh, sorry, my hands were itching. Bo Jio adjusted her earpiece. I'm going to be serious this time. Lin Chintao. Chapter 658. Let's go. As the young man spoke, his fingers quickly manipulated the game character on the screen. She was treating the tank as an assassin. Lin Chintao followed beside the youngster. As a tank, wasn't she running a little too fast? Bo Jio didn't think she was fast, but she had to catch someone. Even if she didn't have a big move, she could still be a tank. Of course, at this moment she had to have a good teammate. As one of the top assassins in the country, Lin Chintao immediately understood the youngster's tactics. He swept forward, unleashing a big blow. The moment the youngster's HP dropped, his HP would automatically recover. With Bo Jio's support, he struck back with his spear. K0. Beautiful coordination. It hadn't even been 2 minutes and the beasts in the wilderness weren't all gone. Bo Jio and her team had already killed 2 players. Through the screen, Chinamo could see the youngster's smooth maneuvers. Lin Chintao's assassin and Bo Jio's tank were playing beautifully. When the 5 of them were in the middle lane, they were unstoppable. That was unstoppable. They led the troops to the defense tower. The archer was still thinking that he wouldn't be able to do much with full HP. What he didn't expect was that he would be stunned first. Then came the tank's big move. The tank retreated. It was the assassin's big move. The assassin had low HP and could run fast. Even if he was hit by the tower, he wouldn't lose much HP. Fortunately he was able to move and wanted to rush back to the city. Just then the archer leaped over. He wasn't the only one dead, even the defense tower in the middle lane was destroyed. Beautiful. As a sorcerer, Luo Jiang didn't forget to heal her teammates, every step of her maneuvers perfect. Which meant that they had recovered all the HP they had lost. It wasn't a problem for the 5 of them to cross the tower and kill someone. The person in front of the computer threw his headphones. Clang. Are you kidding me? What's wrong with them? How did they become so strong all of a sudden? Weren't they afraid of being killed by the tower if the 5 of them crossed it one by one? F***ck fight them one-on-one. Hearing his words, Hoshino, who was sitting on the sofa with a magazine in his hand, glanced at him and raised his eyebrows. You're dead. I've already died twice. That person gritted his teeth. The opponent is too cunning. First the archer stunned me, then the tank used an ultimate skill. Then the mage controlled me. I couldn't even move. I just stood there under the tower and was instantly killed. Hoshino's interest was piqued when he heard that. Looks like he's not bad. Cunning, too cunning. Especially the opponent's meat shield. Tell me, why would a meat shield run so fast? That person held his teacup in his mouth. Shouldn't the tank be in front and die for the people behind? I did hit him, but it was just a little bit. I didn't do any real damage to him. He didn't die even once along the way. How can he be called a tank? The so-called meat shield was indeed a shield in front of everyone, so they should be prepared to die. After all, apart from an ultimate skill, a tank's attack power was very low when fighting against an opponent. But even so, under the young man's control, he even got 1 kill, 0 deaths and 5 assists. We only lost 8 people in total and 6 of them are related to him. Chapter 659. F***ck. Our last defense tower in the middle lane can't hold on much longer. Is he really from China? As he spoke, he turned to Hoshino. Vice Captain, come over and help me, we can't lose. Hoshino didn't reject him. As a fellow gamer, he wanted to see who had such good control. What character are you playing? That person hurriedly replied, Sorcerer, your forte is team control. Pass me the mouse. Hoshino turned and sat in front of the computer, the left side of his face glowing softly. When he received it, his character had just left the city. His slender fingers typed a line of words, everyone in the group. It meant that all members were to defend the middle lane. Upon hearing the call, the members of this team had all gathered into a single line. That person stood beside Hoshino, looking at the screen, extremely agitated. Vice Captain, hurry. Attack them. Attack them. Don't go out of the tower, Hoshino ordered in Japanese. The team was about to explode. Why does it sound like Hoshino's voice? It sounds like it too. It doesn't sound like it, it's Vice Captain's voice. Hoshino. Hoshino, look over here. These esports players turned into fans at any moment. It was all because that person was Hoshino. In the Japanese team they were split into the main force and the reserve force. Currently, among those who were casually playing online and shouting that they wanted to abuse others, 3 of them were reserve troops and 2 of them were the main forces. Moreover, they were the weaker ones among the main forces. Now that Hoshino was here, what did that mean? A world-class player. This time we'll torture them like dogs. One word, kill. Hoshino smiled faintly. Don't move, we'll die if we go out. They aren't weak. Just not weak. They didn't care. We weren't serious just now and didn't have a team. Now it's time for us to show our true strength. That tank doesn't know how to do anything other than sneak past the tower. This time we'll focus on him. Their words rang in their ears. Hoshino moved the mouse forward, his voice magnetic. I control, tank block in front, remember to only block, don't leave the tower. Yes. The meat shield took a step forward and saw that the 5 of them had brought their troops over. They're courting death. Get ready. No problem. Everyone was very excited. They used their ultimate skills to grab the opponent's meat shield. Bojio ran at the front of the team, showing no signs of slowing down. Hoshino saw that they were close enough and ordered, Archer, stun him. A ranged stun. He had clearly aimed it. However, he watched as his opponent moved beautifully, successfully avoiding the stun skill. He fainted and fell to the back. Holy shit. Little Spade, tell us when you're dodging a big move. Lin Qintao, haha, I dodged. Luo Jiang, dodged +1. Yunhu, needless to say, Yunhu dodged. I swear I'll never play this kind of high-end game with you guys again. Lin Qintao replied, If you don't have our strength, how can you show your weakness? F***ck if I don't take revenge for being stunned, I'll write the word king upside down. Since he still had the time to chat, she knew the back line was safe. Since there weren't any assassins at the back, she decided to wait. Chapter 660. Such an agile tank? Are you kidding me? The Japanese team's archer shouted. Seeing this scene, Hoshino narrowed his eyes. He immediately realized that his teammate's death was not as coincidental as he said. The tank's hand speed and movement were so fast that he had to be wary of it. Hoshino pressed down on his earpiece. Assassin. Here, someone replied. Hoshino lowered his arm, but his voice didn't stop. Go invisible and attack the enemy's backline. No problem. The assassin activated his ultimate and went invisible. This meant that he couldn't be seen on screen. Then Hoshino gave the second order. Logically speaking, they had a high chance of winning in a team battle like this. After all, the opponent's tank only had half of his HP left, not full. The archer had also lost some HP from the stun. Only the assassin cut off the backline while they attacked from the front. Even if they didn't get wiped out, at least 4 of them would die. But the enemy didn't know that. The instant the assassin went invisible, the youngster sensed that the enemy was about to move. The young man immediately sensed that the enemy was about to make a move and said, "Retreat, save the shooter." Everyone was on high alert. The Japanese assassin didn't expect that he hadn't appeared yet. The archer in front of him turned around and cast a stun spell at him. In that instant, not only did his invisibility disappear, he was also frozen in place. Not only did he fail to kill the archer, he was also killed by the archer and support. It happened in the blink of an eye. The Japanese had already rushed out of the tower. The crouching ultimate was clearly meant to kill the tank. He didn't expect the ultimate to be used. The assassin dodged to the left. He activated sprint and didn't get hit at all. Instead, he used the grass by the side of the road to dodge. Then his figure flashed again. He blocked his path. Most importantly, the enemy sorcerer was very calculative. With a click of his mouse, he healed and recovered his HP. F***ck you didn't heal before but now you're healing, the tank shouted. He finally had more HP than the enemy but now it was almost even. Hoshino lowered his gaze. As he fought, he replied, it wasn't worth it to heal them just now. Now that their archer is at full HP, it's worth it to heal them together with the tank. Healing skills took a long time to recover. Healing 2 people at once was naturally more cost-effective than healing 1 person. Instead of healing him earlier, he chose to heal him now. That only meant one thing. Not only was the opponent a tank, but even the mage was not easy to deal with. Thinking of this, Hoshino suddenly paused. Something's wrong. Turn back. However, people didn't react immediately when he said that. This was especially true for the long-range shooters at the back of the team. He wanted to go back. However, the white-clothed assassin suddenly appeared at the back and used a powerful skill to slow him down. Not only did he lose half of his HP, he couldn't even walk. The assassin had no intention of running. Even if he entered the tower with low HP, it was not over yet. With a thrust of his spear, he jumped out. Go. It only took a few seconds. When the Japanese team's tank and support saw that the assassin only had 1 HP left, they wanted to kill him, forgetting about Hoshino's order for them to retreat. Don't go. Chapter 661. On the screen, the 2 Japanese players who had entered the wilderness were attacked by Bojio and her team. Why bother killing the assassin? They couldn't catch up. Assassins were known for their speed. Even with a bit of HP left, the experienced Lin Chintao wasn't afraid. He met up with his team and ran back to the city to heal. As for the 2 players behind him, they were foolish. They didn't know that assassins could be used as bait besides killing. Of course, he wasn't the one who had said such shameless words. He was only doing this because of Little Spade's orders. That was why Little Spade was such a cunning person. In the future, he would definitely tell the newbies to be careful when they met Little Spade as an assassin. Especially when he ran far away, they shouldn't chase after him. It was highly possible that he had purposely appeared for them to see so that they could chase after him. It was so that they could chase after him until he met up with his team. Then he would turn around and kill them. Needless to say, such shamelessness suited his taste. Lin Chintao laughed as he returned to the city. His voice was devilish, causing Luo Luojiang to fall off her chair. But even so, the valiant Luo Luojiang didn't forget to move to kill. A single fireball would cause the 2 players to lose HP and faint. At this moment the archer wouldn't have to use a big move to kill one of them. However, he did not expect the opponent's mage to release a rain spell at this time. F***CK. I'm going to die. He thought he was dead. Unexpectedly, the tank controlled by the youngster beside him crouched forward. It wasn't the dying player, it was the enemy sorcerer. This squat was simply perfect and beautiful. The rain spell was interrupted instantly. He shot an arrow over and the dying player died. At this moment Luo Luojiang used another big move. The tank, who had wanted to kill the archer, retreated instantly. He was left with low HP. If he hadn't sprinted he would have died as well. The enemy sorcerer was left with the most HP and his maneuvers were impressive. If he hadn't come out, even that meat shield would have been killed by them. However, the outcome of this team battle was already very obvious. 3 of the Japanese had died but none of them died. Lin Chintao the assassin had returned with full HP. This meant that they could continue to kill the last person under the defense tower. But in the next second Lin Chintao paused. He looked at the person on the screen who had taken a step back and raised his eyebrows. How did this mage suddenly become so smart? Indeed, I was almost drenched to death by him just now. His calculations were really good, he was sure he could trap all of us before he used his big move. The 4 of us lost HP rapidly in his rain spell. If it wasn't for Little Spade he would have killed 2 of us and crippled 1. Fortunately Little Spade cut off his rain spell. The young man smiled, not at all modest. I've played this mage before, I know its weakness. You're amazing, aren't you? Lin Chintao wanted to grab the mouse pad. The youngster whispered, pay attention to the opponent's freezing skills. This time we won't kill him. Don't get close to him and attack the tower first. Lin Chintao narrowed his eyes. No, he wasn't that strong just now. Chapter 662. I think so. Luo Luojiang chimed in. Besides, his positioning and calculations are extremely precise. Honestly, I suspect he's better at sorcerer than me. But this time I managed to gain some kills because I developed better than him. If we had faced each other at the start, I wouldn't have been able to defeat him. Lin Chintao raised an eyebrow. Better than what you can use as a sorcerer? How is that possible? Sister Luo Luo, you're the top sorcerer in China. Only the top players in the world would be better than you, but the top players wouldn't play such games. Luo Luojiang lifted her lips. It does sound unbelievable, but Chintao, don't forget this is the Japanese server. You're saying that there's a high chance that we'll meet the host team Japan? The #1 team in Asia? Luo Luojiang narrowed her eyes. It shouldn't be the official team, they aren't that weak. They aren't bad. Don't forget what kind of formation the 5 of us have. Regardless of which team's reserve team in the country, they would probably be defeated by us in less than 5 minutes. Yet they managed to hold on for such a long time. This might be the difference between China and Tokyo's esports. In terms of nurturing new esports players, China is still lacking. Lin Chintao paused for a moment before replying, before you guys arrived, these reserve troops already killed me. How strong do you think the official Japanese team is? I don't know. The archer noticed the problem. Yun, whose voice was deep. You have to ask Luo Luo, she's the only one who has fought against the Japanese. Luo Luojiang was silent for 2 seconds before replying, I've never been beaten so badly. Her words caused everyone to pause except for Bojio. Luo Luojiang wasn't afraid to talk about her past. Every member of the Japanese are like the top almighties in the country. Their captain and vice-captain are both world-class players. There isn't anyone in the country with such a title. Even Chinamo was disqualified because of his absence. That's why I can't tell you how strong the Japanese are, I don't wish to meet them. Haven't we already? The young man touched his bangs, his side profile handsome and evil. I say, brothers, are you done chatting? Standing here waiting for people to revive and start a new round of scheming. I'm so handsome, but I also get tired. Meow. Princess appeared in the camera. Only then did everyone laugh and regain their previous liveliness. After the party was formed, the middle road was unobstructed, and they reached the other side of the city. The enemy wizard is here. Lin Chintao didn't know why, but when he saw the mage standing there, he felt a sense of apprehension. It was probably because he had been frozen by the mage and lost more than half of his HP. Now he felt that the mage was too dangerous. Moreover, the other party's rain array was so powerful that it was hard to deal with it. If he's really stronger than you, I'm saying if. Lin Chintao said as he hid. Sister Luo Luo, who do you think he is? Chapter 663. Kacha. The moment she heard the name, Bojio's screen went black. It wasn't just her, even Chinamo, who was on the other end of the video call, heard Hoshino's name. The youngster's fingers paused in that instant. It was so obvious that Chinmo's hand paused as well. But very quickly the youngster turned to the left. The coldness in Chinmo's eyes dissipated. On the other end, Bojio tilted her head. Princess's cat face was raised up proudly with a white plug in her mouth. She was showing off her prowess. He had an expression that said, "This is the king's territory, you foolish human, submit." Bojio arched a brow. It wasn't practical to plug in the power and log in at this moment. On the other end, Chinamo was still watching. He watched as the youngster placed her arm behind her back and signed the contract. Then he asked coldly, "Why? Not playing anymore?" Bojio picked up her phone, glancing towards the direction of Princess, who was walking like a cat. The power is in someone's mouth. Chinamo took a moment before commenting, "Ever since he started following you, he has become more mischievous." Bojio stood up. "Brother Imo, be honest, isn't he more picky? When he's with you he's always lying down and allowing you to touch him. But when he's with me he's a little tsundere." Chinamo replied faintly, "It has to do with his aura." "What aura?" Bojio took a sip of water, leaning against the bookshelf. Chinamo closed the proposal in his hands, passing it to Assistant Zhang before replying slowly, "Offensive aura." "Bojio, the WeChat group is ringing." Before the youngster could react, Chinamo swiped open his tablet. "They are all looking for you." That was when Bojio realized that the power outage was a trap within a trap in the game. She walked over with a cup of water and opened the WeChat group. A string of little spade popped up. Lin Chintao had sent 3 messages in one go. F***CK. Little spade, what's going on? Did you disconnect? How could you disconnect at such a crucial moment? Without little spade blocking in front of me it doesn't feel safe. I've never missed you so much. Little spade. Of course, other than Lin Chintao there were other members. However, everyone was more reserved. Everyone sent 6 little dots in the group. Bojio caressed her nose and started to type. "Sorry, the power is cut." The power is cut. Lin Chintao's expression said, "Don't joke around or I'll scam you too." Bojio decided to take a photo of Princess, who was still in the midst of posing, and sent it to the group. Lin Chintao asked, "Wait, what's wrong with the cat? Why does it have to be concave? Have you ever considered the feelings of us gamers?" "He obviously hasn't considered it," Bojio replied. Lin Chintao didn't speak for 10 seconds before sending a crying emoji. Someone's interest was piqued. "Little brother Tao, were you tortured to tears again?" "No, I won," Lin Chintao said confidently. Lin Feng was embarrassed. "Then why are you still crying?" "He died the most times." Yun Hu was calm. "It's indeed Lin Chintao's style," said Lin Feng. Coco, agreed. Chen Yiguang, agreed. Zhao Sanpeng, agreed. Lin Chintao shouted, "Shut up, you peeping bastard." Chapter 664. Lin Chintao, "I will never forgive him." Zhao Sanpeng, I can't hit him." Xiangnan Xiao appeared asking calmly, "Where's practice?" In an instant, Zhao Sanpeng turned invisible again. Lin Chintao laughed heartily. Luo Jiang came out. "I just asked him." Lin Chintao. Luo Jiang sent a bandit emoticon. "It's indeed Hoshino." This time, the youngster didn't pause, even asking naturally, "How did you know?" Luo Jiang chuckled lightly as she sent a voice message, acting like a mature lady. "When I asked, he didn't reply." Under normal circumstances, if you ask someone that, they would definitely say, "How is that possible?" But he didn't even bother replying. Spade Z, proof to the contrary. World's most handsome fatty, F***CK, why didn't you tell me Hoshino was here? Lin Chintao, is it good for the name above to be so fake? Zhao Sanpeng. World's most handsome fatty, who's Zhao Sanpeng? I've never heard of him. Lin Chintao, keep acting. World's most handsome fatty, don't mind the details, let's talk about Hoshino. Xiangnan Xiao, let's talk about your practice, final warning. This time, Zhao Sanpeng really went offline. But the Professional Alliance's chat group was in a frenzy because of Hoshino's name. Someone asked, is it really him? Luo Jiang, their fighting style is similar. How's his skill? Luo Jiang, after Little Spade went offline he went for a 1v3. He died and so did the 3 of us. Amazing. After these words were spoken, there was a period of silence. Luo Luojiang, Yunhu, and Lin Qintao were all top players in the country. Even with the three of them working together, they could only fight Hoshino to a draw. The gap was so obvious that it was hard to ignore it. Just Hoshino alone was enough to make things difficult for them. Just how strong was the Japanese team? Everyone's heart was stretched taut like a string. Chen Yiguang was the first to speak. After the National League, there will be another match against the Japanese. I wonder why they said it this way. It was proposed by Tokyo. Luo Luojiang's voice deepened. They said that the Japanese are currently on a world tour. After the Korean side, it will be our turn. They hope that we can work together and they won't be sending out their strongest team. They specially emphasize that it's just a cultural exchange in esports. Lin Qintao raised his eyebrows. Cultural exchange, hee. Do your best to win, no matter who will fight in the future. Enrich. Lin Qintao laughed. I'm going downstairs to train. Little Spade, see you in the semifinals. See you in the semifinals. The moment she exited the WeChat page, she heard a voice beside her ear. You seem to care a lot about Hoshino. That voice had a magnetic quality to it and it was calm and steady. Bojio glanced up and saw the Almighty looking at her through the video call. His brows were deep and his eyes were extremely dark, giving off the vibe of a devil. Even though he was dressed in a pure white hospital gown, it didn't stop his natural oppressive aura and perceptive abilities. A little. Bojio smiled sloppily. After all, he's an esports player that he likes. He's handsome and has good skills, so he would definitely care. Like. Chapter 665. She hadn't expected the youngster to give such an answer. Chinmo's eyes dimmed. Bojio didn't notice the change. Firstly, they were separated by a screen. Secondly, all her thoughts were on how to deal with the Almighty's next question. To her surprise, the Almighty didn't continue questioning her. That was good for her. But there was one thing. There were so many matches. Bojio had a basic understanding of the competition. During the National League, the Japanese would be the guest. At that time, she and Hoshino might very well. You seem to like a lot of people. The low voice beside her interrupted her thoughts once more. Besides, it didn't seem like a compliment. I'm more universal. She couldn't afford to hurt someone with a dark history. Chinmo's voice was calm. You're so universal that you've become a confessor. Amazing wall-jumping scholar, do you need me to create a name list for you to be remembered forever? Immerse? Bojio. Who would write their dark history into a register and leave their name in the annals of history? The Almighty was being sarcastic again. As they chatted, Bojio realized that the Almighty's words were more lethal than words. In the end, he started to list the names, each one of the people she had confessed to. Bojio promised, that's all in the past. Am I on your list of people from the past? Chin Imo asked casually. Bojio smiled devilishly. Brother Imo, don't worry, you'll always be in the present. Is that so? Chin Imo laughed, his voice carrying a hook. Since that's the case, do you want to turn gay for me? In that instant, Bojio's heart skipped a beat. But she quickly regained her composure. The Almighty was getting better at flirting. She had almost fallen for it. Brother Imo, you can't make such a joke. Chin Imo watched as the youngster popped a lollipop into her mouth. Her dashing and arrogant expression made it seem as though she was treating his words as a joke. It was fine as a joke. Chin Imo realized a problem the moment he said it. It was best to say it face to face. If he didn't say it in person, no one could guarantee that a certain someone wouldn't run away in the middle of the night after knowing that he was serious. Chin Imo plugged in his earpiece and changed the topic. Were there any problems during the competition? Nothing at the moment. Bojio didn't intend to tell the Almighty about what had happened that day, mainly because there wasn't a need. After the competition, she could get back at him if she was unhappy. Chin Imo glanced at Bojio, noticing the redness in the youngster's eyes. He frowned. Get some eye drops. Again, Bojio muttered. The Almighty was even stricter than he Honghua. Chin Imo placed the cup down and said, Go. It was indeed inconvenient for one person to apply eye drops. Hence, Bojio could only keep one eye open and the other closed. It had to be said that the Almighty's voice was really nice. It had a kind of hypnotic magnetism. At the start, Bojio could still hear his words, but gradually her eyelids started to droop. Hence, Bojio didn't know that after she had fallen asleep, Bojio's expression changed. The person on the other end of the video call didn't forget to turn to look at her even during the meeting. That gaze was filled with pampering. Chapter 666. Fu Family's Villa. Bojio wasn't sure how long she had slept for. Just as the sun was about to rise, she opened her eyes. Her fingers twitched, but the phone in her hands had already shut down due to the lack of battery. Even so, the phone was still warm. Was the Almighty still alive? Bojio arched a brow as she thought of the possibility. He hugged the princess beside him and warmed her hands. She had to admit that the Almighty was despicable. He hadn't hung up the video call in order to drain her battery. She could do the same next time. This time she would sleep. It wasn't her style to sleep until 11 a.m. when there weren't any competitions or exams. But today the internet had exploded because of a gaming video. The title was, "I was watching a match on the Japanese server. I want to know which Almighty's alternate account is it." The post had over 1,000 replies. Amazing. This teamwork is so cool. Opie, I'm impressed that you dare to play on the Japanese server. Little Bean Sack. Why does the sorcerer's technique seem so familiar? My goddess Luo Luo Jiang. It must be her, she must be the one who can control the sorcerer so well. I'm here to expose the assassin that died the most. That's right, it's Lin Shintao. Is the support my almighty Yun? Is the archer my dragon? Even the loyal fans can recognize their almighty, why isn't the tank recognized? I'm not sure, but what exactly is going on? Different teams, are they teaming up? Don't you know? The adults have such a hobby, but it isn't common. Could the tank be Zhao Sanpeng? No, my fatty isn't a fan of towers. Honestly, the tank isn't played in such a manner. It isn't normal for him to treat himself as an assassin. If he dies under the tower, he would be sending himself to death. Are you saying that the tank isn't good? I don't think so. But he isn't a scammer, he's the MVP. Tank? MVP. Under normal circumstances, a tank wouldn't be the MVP. It isn't strange for him to kill every single time. All in all, it's because of Goddess Luo Luo and the others. If not, he would have died easily. Am I the only one who thinks that he's playing this way because he knows that Goddess Luo Luo and the others are behind him? Are you saying that this is his cooperation? My God, I'm getting more and more interested in this meat shield. Who is he? Are there any fans who claim it? Unfortunately, no matter how many times this post was covered, still no one claimed this meat shield. The onlookers were really curious. After all, it was rare for a tank to play like this. Until the Supreme Alliance team battle that day. Spade Z used the meat shield. Wait a minute? My big spade isn't an archer anymore? This is already the fourth one. We still lack a support. He really is an all-rounder. I want to see how my big spade acts as a tank. In the end, he saw an incomparably familiar scene. He was supposed to be a meat shield, but he leaped into the tower to kill. He was clearly a meat shield, but he had set the tempo of the entire arena. He was supposed to be a tank, but he became the team controller and became the MVP. What was going on? Everyone was dumbfounded. A Spade fan said seriously, I think I can go to the Japanese server's battle video and claim Big Spade. What do you guys think? Chapter 667. As usual, there would be a mini-interview after the competition. What's more, there was still one more match before they entered the semi-finals. This match was of utmost importance. It wasn't just the fans, even the media was concerned about Bojio's character. Is it time to use support next time? The interviewer asked with a smile. After all, he had already used the other methods. In front of the camera, the young man reached out and pulled the white cat back. He said lazily, "No need." No need? The host was stunned. What? Because the Almighty didn't teach me how to play the support role before he left. Hearing this, it was not just the host. Even the fox-like smile on Manager Feng's face froze. It wasn't easy for the beautiful MC to find her voice. You mean to say that the characters you play were all taught to you by Almighty Qin recently? Bojio glanced up nonchalantly. Immerse, I found my own style as a tank, but I haven't gotten used to the sorcerer and archer. I'll practice more when I'm free. The beautiful host. There was no way to continue the conversation. You're the MVP of every game, yet you still say you're not playing well. However, the others did not understand that the young man really did not play. Bojio was best at being an assassin. He watched the video of the interview. The official Weibo exploded again. As a fan of the Mo and Jio couple, there's only one sentence left in my eyes. Because the Almighty didn't teach me how to play support before he left. Big Spade, don't cry, the Almighty will teach you when he comes back. Be good, pat my head. To be able to become an all-rounder in such a short period of time, I just want to say that he's super cool. Han Susu and Wu Zhen were also holding their phones. Han Susu couldn't help but reply, hee, keep bragging. You can become an all-rounder after 10 days of practice. Spade Z, you're such a hypocrite. The Spade fans didn't respond to his words. Fan Qin said, Spade Z started off as an assassin, and being an assassin requires a high level of control and positioning. Plus, with Spade Z's hand speed, as long as he understands the other character's attributes and the usage of some big moves, along with Almighty Qin's all-round guidance, it won't be impossible for him to reach his current level. I'll say this first, I'm a fan of Almighty Qin and I won't pretend to be a passerby. Putting aside other questions, I'll just say one thing. Spade Z's recent matches have a slight change, and that's the geometric attack curve. What I, Almighty Qin, am best at. Flunkies can't understand how a genius can see the geometric attack curve when he's playing a game. Am I the only one who noticed this? This seems to be the first time I, Almighty Qin, personally taught someone, right? Don't say any more. Dog food full of dog food. Pah. Han Susu slammed her phone. These CP fans are really crazy, what dog food? After saying this, she seemed to have noticed Wu Zhen's ugly expression. She turned around and held Wu Zhen's hand. Sister Wu, those people don't know of your existence. You and Brother Qin are a couple, what's the big deal about that gay? Wu Zhen smiled and put down the coffee cup in her hand. Why didn't you take revenge on him in the recent matches? Chapter 668. That depends on the higher-ups. Wu Zhen glanced at the contents of the official Weibo, her eyes sinking into the darkness, looking gloomy. We're doing things according to the law, right? Han Susu smiled. Of course, Sister Wu is the fairest. But no matter what, someone like that should be taught a lesson. I used to like him so much, but he ignored me. He's so cold-blooded. If he liked other girls, I could have snatched them away. But he just had to like a guy, and he even liked Brother Qin. He's blind. So what if the Han family wasn't good enough for him? How much money had she invested to support him? Yet he didn't reciprocate and even acted like this. Sister Wu, don't worry, before you catch him, I'll let him know the consequences of angering you and me in Jiang City. To put it bluntly, Han Susu relied on her power and influence. Whenever she met someone, she would throw some money at them and they would automatically support her. For example, the Spade fans she had interacted with previously. But the youngster didn't fall for it. She had been indignant, and after finding out he was gay, her outburst suited her. Because there were many types of girls in this world. One of them was Han Susu. From the start, Bo Jio hadn't wanted to interact with her because she had already seen through her character. After a few interactions, Han Susu always looked at Shui Yaoyao with disdain, regardless of whether others had offended her. There wasn't a problem with using money to solve everything. But once she used money, the other party had to reciprocate. Bo Jio had never thought of herself as a salesperson. She played games, not services. Hence, when the Spade fans came looking for her, Bo Jio glanced at Qin Xiaodong, standing up slowly. She stuffed a hand into her pocket. Say it again, who is outside? They seem to be your old fans. Qin Xiaodong's voice was low. They want you to give them an explanation. Bo Jio chuckled. An explanation? They came to my house and want me to give them an explanation? With that, the youngster narrowed her eyes, her gaze sharp. All right, I'll give them an explanation. Wait a minute. Qin Xiaodong rubbed his eyes. The young master's expression was full of hostility. It really didn't look like he was going to give an explanation, but more like he was going to pick a fight. The dozen or so people outside were still making a ruckus. Half of them were people who often hung out with Han Susu. The rest were Spade fans from before. All of their words were the same as before. I like you so much, how can you treat us like this? This time she wasn't merciful. Without saying a word, he punched the troublemaker who was pushing the driver, Uncle Wang. That punch was very vicious. The man was in so much pain that his face was deformed. The self-proclaimed Spade fans shrieked, How could you hit him, you? The scream was not over yet. Bojo laughed, her voice cold. Unfortunately, there's a camera outside my house. You came to cause trouble and even pushed my Uncle Wang 3 times. His glasses are still at my feet, it's not too much for me to hit him. You should be glad that you're all girls. If not, I would have beaten all of you up. With that, the youngster swung her hand and helped Uncle Wang up, her gaze icy. Xiaodong. Chapter 669. Bojio glanced up. Call the police. The self-proclaimed fans of Spade City sneered at the youngster. I never expected you to treat us like this. What did we do to you? Why are you calling the police? Bojio walked over. What grade are you in? The young girl who was obviously in university stilled. What do you mean? I was just asking. It seems like you are already of age. Bojio's voice was calm. That's good. Breaking into private property is enough to detain you for 15 days. The young girl clenched her fists tightly, tears streaming down her face. We like you so much. The word like is insulting enough to make me cry. Bojio's gaze was sharp. I don't care if you cause a ruckus in the competition, but you caused a ruckus in my house and hurt my people. Being used once can be considered innocent, but being used to hurt people all the time isn't pitiful, it's indiscriminate. You can do whatever you want to me, but why do you think I should tolerate you when you hurt my family? Why do you think I should tolerate you? Just because of your unrequited love? We will definitely turn from fans to haters. The police arrived. The people were still shouting. Bojio carried the spinning princess up. Hurry and turn, I'm innocent for being liked so much. Qin Xiaodong wanted to laugh because he could hear the helplessness in her voice. But the young master's next sentence made him confused again. You should follow them to the police station and wait outside. Soon someone will come to bail them out. Let's see who bailed them out. Bojio caressed the snow-white body of the cat, a nonchalant expression on her face. Qin Xiaodong was puzzled. Young master, how do you know someone will bail them out? It isn't possible so soon. They don't look very old and it would take some time to inform their parents. The person using them doesn't need to be informed. With that, Bojio pressed down on the cat's tail. Aren't you going? Ah! Qin Xiaodong exclaimed. So his young master didn't really want to take care of them for a few days. Instead, he knew the mastermind would take action if he did so. For some reason, Qin Xiaodong felt that his young master had left some leeway for the people who used to like him. If he didn't leave any leeway, young master would definitely bring his lawyer over personally. Even if someone came to bail him out, he might not ask anyone to bail these people out. However, the young master was really ruthless towards the instigators. What were they trying to do by directly grabbing him like this? After the last shareholders' meeting, Qin Xiaodong had seen young master talking to a lawyer. That lawyer was famous in Rivertown. It was said that as long as he accepted a job, he would never lose. However, this person only took orders based on the person. You can't use him just because you have money. How did young master come into contact with that person and make him work for young master? This was a mystery in Qin Xiaodong's heart. In fact, how could a hacker not have a good lawyer? It was easy for Bojio to make someone work for her. Promised to help him track down his ex-wife. Speaking of which, they were partners at most. However, what kind of beauty would abandon such a handsome guy and run away to a faraway place? It's probably because he's not as handsome as the Almighty. Bojio hugged the cat and muttered to herself. She paused because of the pain in her stomach. The princess was still stretching out her claws, swearing not to be a hand warmer anymore. He didn't expect the youth to be so different today. Chapter 670. Every cold-blooded girl would understand. The real pain didn't start from the day the relatives arrived. It started from the day before. After Bojio was done, she carried Princess upstairs. Princess had expected the youngster to open his laptop and create a profile picture or the basement where he could run around and play with the ball. Unexpectedly this time the young man just lay down on the bed and pulled away the quilt. The side of his face looked sickly pale. Honestly, the rascal with the weird aura didn't want to play with him anymore. Princess wasn't used to it. He tilted his head and looked left and right. He had an arrogant, round face. He seemed to be deep in thought. When he was done, he reached out with his paw and used his cat cushion to touch the youngster's face. The youngster didn't wake up. Princess didn't feel like a king at home at all. He glanced at the youngster and dragged his voice. Meow. It was a low meow. With one last leap, he jumped onto the bed and curled his warm body into the youngster's arms. Forget it, on account of its master, he would take care of this youngster. Bojio was woken up by a phone call. It was the little butler, Qin Xiaodong. Young master. I saw it. The person who bailed them out. Bojio opened her eyes, her silver hair falling down. She asked slowly, who is it? Qin Xiaodong sounded incredulous. It's Miss Han. That's weird, doesn't she like you? She even wanted to support you, how did she? Oh, it's her. Xiaodong, head over to Lawyer Bai's place and tell him I'm suing Miss Han. Get him to hand over all the evidence and leave the rest to Lawyer Bai. Qin Xiaodong glanced at the clock. Xiaodong, head over to Lawyer Bai's place and tell him I'm suing Miss Han. Qin Xiaodong nodded. After hanging up, he realized that his young master's voice was too hoarse. Was he sick? Qin Xiaodong frowned. His young master couldn't fall sick at this moment, there was a competition tomorrow. But anyone who encountered such a situation wouldn't be affected. When his young master had been splashed with coke, his heart had ached. This time the other party had come to their house. It was too much. He had to make the culprit with the surname Han suffer. If it was Lawyer Bai, he probably wouldn't be afraid of the Han family. Thinking of this, Qin Xiaodong quickened his pace. As a friend who had just bailed them out, Han Susu comforted the few Spade fans and specially found a place to drink. I didn't expect Big Spade to be so ruthless. Han Susu sighed. Is such a person worth liking? The Spade fans lowered their lids, their eyes filled with resentment. Han Susu hid her smile and pushed the fruit salad forward. Eat something. There are many other players in the esports circle. He's not the only one. When she said this, Han Susu felt that she had vented her anger. But what Han Susu didn't expect was that her party had just begun, and she was about to take them to karaoke. Two police officers walked towards her. Behind the policeman was a man in a suit. Chapter 671. Han Susu smiled, wanting to strike up a conversation. But the person spoke before she could. My side is charging you with slander and instigating others to harass my client. Can you and your group of friends head to the police station? They had just been released and now they were heading to the police station? Was there something wrong with them? Han Susu was obviously not going to agree. I paid bail and now you're asking us to go back. Don't you know who I am and who my brother is? How dare you accuse me? I'll make sure you can't stay in the legal world. That's the legal world, not the legal world. As the man spoke, he reached out to press down on his pure black headphones. Don't your fans have any common sense? Bojio sat up. They seem to have caught her. Of course. The person turned, his face clear. They're even reporting her family background. Bojio arched a brow. This was Han Susu's style. The person was a lawyer. Lawyers didn't like people repeating the same topic over and over again, thinking they were invincible. Han Susu was still shouting, but this time she was shouting at the police officer. The person walked over, saying, I even dare to accuse your brother, what more you? Han Susu's face froze. She hadn't expected anyone to arrest her in Jiang City. What was even more unexpected was that after entering the police station, what she faced was not an ordinary situation, but a small interrogation room. All of a sudden, all the energy that she had been yelling just now was gone, leaving only fear. Han Susu had been arrested. As a police officer, Wu Zhen would definitely know about it. But since Wu Zhen had been transferred to the crime squad, these matters weren't within her jurisdiction. Hence, when she came to visit Han Susu's statement had already been recorded. During the interrogation, unrelated personnel weren't allowed in. Hence, even if Wu Zhen came, she would have to wait for the lawyer to finish questioning before she could see Han Susu. What bothered Wu Zhen the most was that the person interrogating Han Susu had the surname Bai. Wu Zhen knew how difficult it was to deal with this lawyer. But who exactly had invited him over? Wu Zhen was still in her uniform and couldn't be too obvious. Once Lawyer Bai left, Wu Zhen used her connections to meet Han Susu. When Han Susu saw her, it was as if she had seen her savior. Sister Wu, give them some money and ask them to let me out quickly. This is not a place for people to stay. It's not about money. Wu Zhen looked at her written confession and thought about the others. Her eyes darkened. The lawyer who is accusing you isn't someone to be trifled with. The questions he asked you are all criminal, so I can't get you out for the time being. He might use this against you and find out who hired him. Who else could it be other than that disgusting gay? Han Susu clenched her fists. I heard them talking on the phone. He was the one who hired this lawyer to arrest me. Good, very good, see how I deal with him after we get out. Hearing this name again, Wu Zhen's eyes darkened. Since that's the case, we should repay him. The sky outside was gradually sinking. At the Fu family's villa. Chapter 672. The slight dampness was obvious. Even though it wasn't a lot, it didn't feel right. Her forehead was covered in sweat. It wasn't painful, but it was a huge drop. Her lower abdomen felt as though there was an ice cube placed on it, unable to warm up. Be it in the past or now, the moment it happened, Bojo felt as though half of her life had been cut off. Qin Xiaodong thought his young master was having a fever and kept asking, "Should I call the doctor?" Bojo sat on the sofa, holding onto a steaming cup of ginger brown sugar water. Her voice was lower than usual. "No need. How's the matter?" "Everything is going well." Qin Xiaodong paused. "But I'm afraid the Han family won't be willing." Bojo placed the brown sugar water down, her fingers pressing on her lower abdomen, her voice faint. "Even if the Han family isn't willing, they will have to endure it." Qin Xiaodong watched the aloof youngster on the sofa, a sudden realization dawning on him. Even though he knew his young master was different from before. But could a person really change so much? It was as though he was a completely different person. Bojo seemed to have noticed Qin Xiaodong's gaze. She tilted her head and arched a brow. "No, nothing." Qin Xiaodong guessed that he must have been triggered by the past. If he didn't explode in silence, he would die in silence. Young master must have been enlightened after his death. That's why he turned over a new leaf. Bojo smiled, not saying a word. She knew that Qin Xiaodong was doubtful. No matter who it was, the more they interacted with her, the more they would notice the difference. Han Susu shouldn't have ordered those people to cause trouble at the Fu family. She hadn't wanted to bother with such a person. Besides, it wasn't worth her time. Besides, it was the National League. She would rather use the time to practice her hand speed. But someone wasn't willing to give her the peace. Bojo glanced at the time on the clock. From the looks of it, the Han family should have started looking for her. As expected, another 15 minutes passed. Bojo's phone rang. The youngster lowered her lids, swiping the screen with her fingers. "The Han family has made their move." The voice on the other end of the phone was calm. "They have informed the media to expose you." The young man chuckled. Do those with power and influence really think that they don't have to bear any criminal responsibility for trespassing and slandering others? Do they really think that they can continue to be lawless? Probably. These two words carried a thick sense of mockery. The young man smiled faintly. "Then let's teach them a lesson. I heard that you have a lot of evidence of the Han family's bribery." "Yes, but it's expensive." The youngster's thin lips curled up slightly. "Coincidentally, the one thing I don't lack the most is money. Hackers were generally not very poor. Not to mention that she was from an aristocratic family." 9 accounts, one of which was enough to buy an island. It was enough to buy the Han family's evidence. "Sure, but you have to be careful about one thing." Bai Qinya closed the document. Dressed in a suit, he said, "The Han family and the Qin family are old friends." Bojo's gaze deepened. "I've never been afraid of the Qin family." Chapter 673. What identity can I have? The youngster leaned back. In his arms was a snow-white cat with a big head. He was wearing a black t-shirt, and the curve of his lips made him look like a demon from a comic book. He was handsome and evil, and his eyes were shining. "I'm just an ordinary high school student." Meow. Princess looked up. "Youngster, when you said that, did you look at your expression in the mirror?" It wasn't ordinary at all. That night, South City Police Station. Han Susu had never expected things to be so serious. Her surname was Han. Why didn't these people seem to be afraid of her? And where was her brother? Why hadn't he appeared yet? Han Susu was so cold she was getting irritated. She slammed her hands on the table. "Phone. I want to make a phone call. I want to get a lawyer." Miss Han was used to being arrogant and didn't even care about the police. Seeing her attitude, the people on duty didn't give her the phone even if they could. There were so many cases to work on. They didn't have time to serve her. Han Susu couldn't sit still and started to make a fuss. The person who made a fuss threw a phone to her and stood beside her. Han Susu took the phone and dialed a familiar number. It rang 3 times before it was picked up. "Brother, what are you doing? Do you know Susu?" Before she could finish, she was interrupted. "Something happened at home, you have to suffer for a day." When Han Susu heard this, she was unhappy. "Brother, I'm your sister. How can your business be more important than mine? What do you mean by let me suffer for a day? Do you know how broken and cold this police station is? I don't care, give them some money and get a lawyer. Hurry and get me out." The person on the phone didn't speak. This made Han Susu even more unhappy. "Brother, what's wrong with you?" "I won't get a lawyer for you." It was obvious that the voice on the phone had changed. It was old and sounded like a mezzo-soprano. "I always knew you had a bad personality like your mother, but I didn't expect you to be so dirty ordering people to do bad things. How did the Han family end up with someone like you? Han Susu's back stiffened. Grandma, don't call me grandma. Old Madame Han was very righteous. You should bear the consequences of your own actions. Han Susu's face paled. She didn't expect her grandmother to come back. Her grandmother had never liked her since she was young. In fact, Han Susu had never seen such a vicious old woman who insisted on meddling in her affairs. For her 16th birthday, she invited so many classmates to her house to climb the ladder. Originally, she wanted to show off her wealth. This old woman was great. She said that in the Han family, whoever did that would be kicked out. This was a family rule. Han Susu clenched her fists. She knew that no matter what she said, her grandmother would not pity her. She screamed, "Dad, Dad." Her father doted on her. Since her grandma was back, her father must be there too. Finally, the voice on the other side changed. "Susu, calm down. Don't yell." Han Susu burst into tears. "Dad, why is Grandma so cruel? She wants me to stay in the police station and not leave." In fact, the phone was on speaker mode. Old Madame Han listened on the side. Hearing this, his eyes darkened. Subsequently, Chapter 674. Susu, how can you say that about Grandma? The old lady's slightly hunched back was still in front of her. Han Susu scoffed. Why can't I say that about her? She knows how evil she is. For you, Grandma has done everything she can to help you. Han Susu wiped her sleeves. Brother, don't worry about her, just think of a way to get me out. Let him think? What could he do? All right, I'll think about it. Old Madame Han listened to the conversation downstairs. Step by step, she sank into the darkness. It seemed like the ancients were right. Wealth didn't last 3 generations. Old man, this family was going to be finished. But the family wasn't scary. How could the human heart be like this? Times have changed, sigh. The old lady's sigh was melancholy. The Han father and son promised to get Han Susu out, regardless of the method. Spade Z's scandal was just one part of the plan. If they didn't relent, they would definitely proceed to the second step. But just as they were about to ask Han Susu to wait, the people from the prosecutor's office arrived. They didn't care if it was night time or not, they detained the father and son. When they saw old Madame Han, one of the former soldiers raised his hand and saluted. Old Madame Han knew that there was no other way. This time there really wasn't a way. Han Susu was still gloating in the police station. She glanced at the officers on duty. Just you wait, when my father comes all of you will be crying. She wouldn't let that gay off either. But Han Susu didn't expect that after waiting for an entire night, the bail didn't arrive. Instead, the lawyer she had thought was handsome came. He looked at her as though she was a rat or a cockroach. Han Susu had never been looked at like this before. Just you wait. Just you wait. Take her away. Bai Qinya didn't say much. In reality, there wasn't much to say, it was just a case that he would definitely win. He called the youngster. His voice was calm. Don't touch old Madame Han, continue with the rest. Understood. Bai Qinya took a puff. Where's my payment? The youngster's voice was weak. I sent it to your email. Your ex-wife doesn't want to be with you, why don't you think about it? Bai Qinya's voice turned cold. This has nothing to do with you. Ah yes, you are right. Since that's the case, she wouldn't tell him that his ex-wife is pregnant, he. Bo Jio hung up and carried Princess over. She hadn't slept for 4 hours because of the pain last night and her expression wasn't good. But it was already the semi-finals. 1:40 p.m. How important this match was. Those who didn't play esports wouldn't know. Hence, they couldn't allow any negative news about Supreme Alliance to come out at this time. The Han family was ruthless. Then she would be even more ruthless than the Han family. At the very least, today he had to open the game without any reservations. The youngster took the painkiller, raised his head, and sent the medicine down his throat with hot water. He lowered his gaze and tied his shoelaces. With a black backpack on his shoulders, only his black eyes could be seen from his face. Qin Xiaodong looked at him worriedly from behind. Young master, is your body really okay? Everyone knew how strong their opponent was today. Last year they were ranked 6th in the country. What kind of concept was that? Chapter 675. The moment Qin Xiaodong thought about it, there was a knock on the door. Who could it be? Bo Jio was still wearing her wrist guard when she glanced up. Qin Xiaodong had already opened the door. Police? The little butler was in a daze. The uniformed Wu Zhen glanced at Qin Xiaodong, reaching out to push him forward. Her gaze met Bojio's. Fujio, we suspect that you are involved in the maiden's sacrifice incident. This is an arrest warrant, please come with us. Qin Xiaodong's eyes widened. What was that? Bojio glanced over, her voice faint. I'm sorry, Officer Wu, I don't know what you're talking about. Bojio glanced over, her voice faint. I'm sorry, Officer Wu, I don't know what you're talking about. Wu Zhen glanced over, her voice faint. Bring him along, head to his bedroom and bring his laptop. Wu Zhen signaled to both sides with her eyes. Bring him along. Go to his bedroom and bring the computer he used. Yes. That was how the police worked. Everything had happened too suddenly. Qin Xiaodong was still in a daze when they barged into the bedroom. Wu Zhen smiled at Bojio. Do you know who told me about you? Li Minggran, she told me everything. Oh. The youngster pulled down her wrist guard, her pale face still devilishly handsome. What did she tell you? How did I confess to her? Wu Zhen narrowed her eyes. You know that's not what I'm talking about. Fujio, we know each other. On account of Brother Imo, as long as you're honest, I'll make things easier for you. Officer Wu. The youngster straightened, her lips curving into a smile, her tone unhurried. I've always been a law-abiding citizen, I've never asked the police to make things easier for me. Wu Zhen chuckled. Is that so? Follow us in and we'll talk. I've got the laptop. The other two policemen walked over. Wu Zhen glanced at the youngster. Bring him away. Young master. Qin Xiaodong panicked, reaching out to grab him. But he knew it was all in vain. Fortunately, he understood his young master's lips. Inform Lawyer Bai. Qin Xiaodong hurriedly nodded, but he was panicking as he watched his young master being taken away. Lawyer Bai. Where was Lawyer Bai's phone number? No phone. Then I'll go to the military compound and look for him at the Bai residence. Wu Zhen didn't come with good intentions. Bojio understood. In her past life, she had seen countless police cars. She even drove a car disguised as a police officer. But he had never sat in this position like he did today. His lower abdomen was still hurting. With the princess in his arms. The princess was a magical cat. Even though he had caused a ruckus with Bojio previously, he was now extremely obedient, his gaze fixed on Wu Zhen like a tiger. Bojio didn't care if she was caught. If it had been any other day she wouldn't have cared. But today was different. He raised his hand and glanced at the watch on his wrist. There were less than 3 hours before the match. We have to get out before that happens. Officer Wu, I have a very important match today. I think you know very well what evidence do you have to arrest me now? Wu Zhen raised the notebook in her hand. This is the evidence. Number 1 middle school has always been peaceful. It was only during this period of time that there were internet incidents. I've investigated the 2 teachers who were dealt with, and they were all related to you in some way. Chapter 676. Hey, young Master Fu will know after we appraise your computer. Wu Zhen glanced at the youngster. Also, the arrest was ordered by the higher-ups, not me. I'm handling it impartially, young Master Fu, don't accuse me wrongly. Impartially? Bojio lifted her lips. Miss Wu is from the crime squad, but the person you brought is an ordinary police officer. The maiden's sacrifice has always been managed by the crime squad, so the confidentiality shouldn't be low. Since when can a police officer interfere? I'm really curious about the level of impartiality here. The youngster's words hit Wu Zhen's weak spot. Wu Zhen's face froze. She had indeed hidden this operation from the crime squad. But so what? Since she had a suspect. What was wrong with arresting someone? She couldn't make decisions in the crime squad. She could always make decisions in an ordinary police station. Even if she used some tricks. She didn't think there was anything wrong. Since her family had such a background, she had to make use of it. Su's method was too roundabout. It was easy to deal with this person. If the vice-captain of Supreme Alliance didn't appear on time for the semifinals, it didn't matter if they won or lost. By then, this person would have to face endless criticism. Of course, it would be best if she lost. Because once Supreme Alliance lost, it wouldn't just be the fans who would be disappointed in Spade Z. Even Brother Mo would know that this person wasn't anything special. This person was relying on his status as a member of Supreme Alliance to get close to Brother Mo. She would get all the Supreme Alliance fans to ostracize this person. Through Su's methods, she knew how easily the fans could be incited. Strangers might not even attack Spade Z. But these fans were different. One second they said they liked him, but the next they splashed him. She had to thank these Spade fans. Without them, she wouldn't have achieved her goal. When Wu Jun thought of this, her displeasure at the youth's provocation dissipated. She turned to look at the cat in the youngster's arms. But the more she looked, the darker her gaze became. Princess had never allowed her to carry him. Even when she appeared at the Qin family's house, he wouldn't stop meowing. He was indeed a beast, he couldn't even tell who he should be with. Wu Jun glanced at the cat again. When they reached the police station, Bo Jiu entered the interrogation room. Wu Jun laughed lightly. "Let me take care of Princess." As she spoke, she stretched out her hand. The cat in the young man's arms gave her a claw. And it was Wu Jun's face. There was a loud noise. Wu Jun's eyes widened in pain. She wanted to drag the cat over and throw it to its death. Bo Jiu turned and pulled Princess back, her gaze cold as ice. "Officer Wu, you don't look like a police officer now." With that, the teenager turned his head and asked the other policeman, "Where's the interrogation room? Aren't you going to appraise my computer? Do you need me to tell you the password?" "No need." Wu Jun held her chin where there were a few red marks. "Young Master Fu, don't worry. We will investigate slowly until we get to the bottom of this and clear your name." It was just one sentence. Bo Jiu knew what Wu Jun wanted to do. This person was trying to stall for time. No one handled a case like this. However, this was China. You can't be impulsive with the police. That would disqualify her from the competition. As time passed, the youth's face turned even paler. Other than the pain, the temperature in the interrogation room was also extremely low. It wasn't a good feeling for Bo Jiu. But that wasn't important. Chapter 677. It was 12:53 p.m. Jiang City's esports competition venue. Outside the glass doors, almost 1,000 spectators were checking their tickets. It was different from the previous competitions. This was the checkpoint for the finals. From this match onwards, every match in the future would not only be broadcasted on the internet, but it would also be broadcasted on some satellite channels. They witnessed the ability of esports professionals to attract fans. Of course, no one would miss out on such a competition. From afar, every team had someone holding up a poster, usually there to support their favorite esports player. In less than an hour, the competition was about to begin. The members of the Ferocious Tiger team had changed into their uniforms and were discussing their tactics. Supreme Alliance's atmosphere was different. Lin Feng turned towards the wall clock once more, his brows furrowed. "Why isn't he here yet? Is he still on the way?" someone asked. Shui Yaoyao held onto her phone, shaking her head at the others. Lin Feng's eyes dimmed, sensing something was amiss. Still no one picking up? How did this happen? Based on Little Spade's personality, he should have arrived long ago for such an important competition. Why wasn't he here at this hour? 12:55 p.m. The youngster's eyes darkened. She couldn't place all her hopes on Qin Xiaodong finding Bai Qianye. When the police came in, Bo Jiu said calmly that she was going to call her lawyer, but in reality she was calling Feng Yi. Wu Jun wasn't aware of this. Wu Jun was still trying to get more evidence against the youngster so that he wouldn't be able to attend the competition and wouldn't be able to leave so easily. When Feng Yi received the call, the contours of his face changed. But when he received the call, there wasn't any hesitation. After hanging up, he called the lawyer in charge of all matters in the Qin family. Feng Yi knew that once he used the Qin family's connections, Almighty Qin would definitely receive the news. Almighty Qin would definitely receive the news and wouldn't pretend to be peaceful like last time. He might even stop his treatment and come back immediately. At this stage, Feng Yi didn't want to think about it anymore. This matter could only be resolved with the Qin family's connections. On the other side, Qin Xiaodong used all his strength to enter the military courtyard. The Bai family told him that young Master Bai had gone to the airport and it was impossible to chase him at this hour. This was probably why Bai Qianye had turned off his phone. Qin Xiaodong was so anxious that he was about to cry, but there was nothing he could do. He had never wanted someone to help him as much as he did now. He looked up at the clock hanging on the wall. 1:5. The match would begin in half an hour. Young Master was still locked up in the police station. Madam was not at home. For the first time in his life, Qin Xiaodong tasted the feeling of being helpless. South of the city in the interrogation room. Wu Jun sat opposite the youngster with a cup of warm water in her hand, but it wasn't for the youngster. Young Master Fu doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Bo Jiu arched a brow. She placed her left elbow on her abdomen and remained silent. Chapter 678. Bo Jiu glanced at Wu Zhen, her lips lifting into a smile. Her abnormally fair complexion made her look like a noble vampire walking in the night. Who told you I called by Chinya? No matter who you're calling, you'll have to bear the consequences of your crime. Wu Zhen suppressed the disgust she had for the youngster, picking up the pen beside her. Let's talk about the case. Where were you at 8 p.m. on the 26th of December? Bo Jiu replied faintly, home. Who can prove it? Wu Zhen narrowed her eyes. Bo Jiu laughed. Of course it's my family. Wu Zhen knew she wouldn't be able to make any substantial progress. She changed her direction. There aren't many people like you who are talented in hacking. Did you feel great when you stole your own account during the Jiangqing Rookie Selection Contest? Bo Jiu glanced at Wu Zhen, her abdomen throbbing. She gathered her energy, thinking about the hidden meaning behind the question. No, I just felt that I managed to protect myself. As for stealing an account, anyone with a little knowledge of computers would be able to do it. That would make me a hacker in Officer Wu's eyes. There are way too many hackers in the world. Wu Zhen's gaze dimmed. This is the first time I've seen someone quibble. According to young Master Fu, even if you knew what happened to Li Menggran, you wouldn't feel anything for that teacher from your school? How is that possible? Bo Jiu replied naturally. Even if I wasn't her friend, I wouldn't feel that someone like Menggran isn't fit to be a teacher. Wu Zhen pressed closer. That's why you wanted to follow him and deal with him, right? Officer Wu. Bo Jiu's voice was calm. Your conjecture sounds like something you would see in dramas, but it's a pity it's just a thought. I'm just a high school student after all, my results are in the teacher's hands. What do you think I can do? Wu Zhen hadn't expected there to be no progress after asking so many questions. An ordinary person. Staying in this temperature for more than 2 hours was already unbearable. She couldn't understand how the youngster managed to do it. He was so stubborn she couldn't bite through it no matter what. Wu Zhen picked up her notebook, slamming the door shut. She wanted to see how long this gay could last. The closer it was to the start of the match, the more anxious he would be. She didn't believe that she wouldn't be able to get anything out of him. The dark tide was lethal to Bo Jiu. She was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat. She felt a chill in her abdomen and felt a dull pain. She reached out and grabbed the leg of the metal table. There were still 20 minutes left. She had to go to the competition. Here we are. Feng Yi should have arrived. When the youth opened his eyes again, there was sweat on his forehead, but it did not affect the clarity in his eyes at all. No one knew what kind of willpower she was relying on to persevere. Time was still ticking away. Feng Yi brought the Qin family's lawyer and went straight to the bureau chief. The branch chief didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what the maiden's sacrifice was all about. However, since the Wu family had informed them that they had caught a suspect and brought him in for questioning, he didn't think it was a big deal. But now the Qin family's lawyer had appeared. Only then did the bureau chief realize that there was something wrong with this. But since the case was moving forward, it couldn't be casually ended. Chapter 679. The bureau chief wasn't stupid, he didn't want to offend anyone. The Qin family's lawyer had Director Huang's number, hence, it wasn't difficult to contact him. What did you say? Arrest? When did I give the order to arrest someone? Director Huang was confused. The maiden's sacrifice was classified as a top secret, and even if they were to arrest someone, the crime squad would be the ones to do it personally. I understand if Director Huang didn't give the order, it means your men are abusing their rights. My client is still being interrogated. As a member of Supreme Alliance, he has an important competition today. You should know about it, it's related to esports and he has to participate immediately. Director Huang, it's best if you come over personally. If we lose this competition, be it you, me, or anyone else, it won't be easy. Supreme Alliance? Esports competition? Even if Director Huang didn't play games, he knew how important this competition was to a certain someone. Who would be so reckless as to arrest his team member at this time? Director Huang didn't dare to waste a single second. He was afraid that if he was late, something would really happen. A certain someone wouldn't help him investigate another case. Qingnan Police Station. There was a password on the computer. It wasn't difficult to crack the password on the computer. The police had professionals in this field. However, after looking around, he didn't find any traces of hacking into other computers. Other than Hero, there was only an ordinary laptop on the table. The other hard drives were all normal. He stood up, shaking his head at Wu Jin. Wu Jin didn't give up. Take another look, there's definitely something inside. I've already looked through it 3 times, the information on the preview device shows that it only shows the user's official Weibo. There's nothing wrong with this laptop. Wu Jin's eyes sunk. What about the live stream? Did he do any live streams? The officer shook his head. There isn't any live stream software installed on this computer. Wu Jin wanted to ask more. At this moment, it wasn't just the officer in charge, even Director Huang strode in. Feng Yi and the Qin family's lawyer followed behind. The moment Director Huang saw Wu Jin, he immediately understood who was using the crime squad's name to do this. He stopped in his tracks, and his expression was unprecedentedly serious. The person you captured, where is he now? Director Huang. At first, Wu Jin felt a little guilty at the sight of such a group of people. But on second thought, she was just arresting someone for questioning. She didn't do anything to anyone, so she replied nonchalantly, the suspect is still being interrogated. Director Huang hadn't expected such an attitude from Wu Jin, his voice turning cold. When did I ever order you to arrest him? How is he a suspect? I believe that every member of the crime squad has the right to arrest and interrogate. Wu Jin's words made everything sound reasonable. The Qin family's lawyer recognized Wu Jin. He took a step forward and said faintly, since Miss Wu says so, I would like to ask if you have any concrete evidence to prove my client is a suspect. The evidence is still there. Before Wu Jin could finish her sentence. Chapter 681. All right. When Bo Jio said this word, her lips were pale to the extreme. But there was a smile on her face. Feng Yi wasn't the only one who knew. Along the way, the youngster's only action was to drink 2 painkillers. Feng Yi watched her worriedly. How were they going to fight the 5v5? But if Spade Z didn't participate, Supreme Alliance would definitely lose. Do you need me to do anything? Feng Yi couldn't understand the youngster's condition, but it seemed to be a stomachache. Is it because the interrogation room is too cold and you haven't eaten anything? Bo Jio held onto her arm. Enrich, she didn't explain further, glancing up with a sheen of sweat. What time is it now? Feng Yi knew what she meant, turning towards the driver. Take a shortcut. The shortcut is a little bumpy, young Master Jio's body. Bo Jio hugged the cat, her voice deep. It's fine. Young Master Jio, sit tight. The driver's driving skills weren't bad, it was obvious he had been avoiding the media. But along the way, Feng Yi could only see the youngster's pale face, her bent waist against her stomach. It was unbearable. Do you want some hot water? Feng Yi suggested, getting out of the car. Bo Jio glanced up, her voice raspy due to the pain. Let's head to the venue, give me a cigarette. Cigarettes could stop the pain. Feng Yi watched as the youngster lowered her head to light the cigarette. In that instant, he was reminded of a person who had suffered a wrist injury. At that time, his fingertips had been stained with blood, but he had been focused on the competition. But that time he hadn't made it. This time, he hoped time would wait for them. Outside the car window, another red light lit up. Bo Jio was in pain, but her attention didn't shift away from the live stream. In the venue, Lin Feng's character had died once. This wasn't good for Supreme Alliance. Supreme Alliance had lost the previous 1v1. If he were to lose this match again, he would definitely die. Then, all the fans tightened their grip on their clothes. The first revival is less than 20 seconds. Yun Hu should be able to hold on for 20 seconds, but he will have to lose a defense tower. The shoutcaster's voice rang out. The situation isn't looking good. Spade Z isn't here either. The other shoutcaster sighed. The presence or absence of the captain will directly affect the morale of the team. Moreover, Supreme Alliance has lost the first round. It seems like there's no way to salvage the situation. Actually, this isn't Supreme Alliance's strongest lineup. Chinamo isn't here. There's nothing we can do about it. Winning or losing is what matters in a competition, not anything else. Inside the car, Feng Yi could hear the analysis of the 2 men. He glanced up, glancing at her. They can win. The youngster's voice was calm, but his eyes were bright. He said he would leave me a 5v5, so he will definitely leave it for me. At that moment, Feng Yi didn't say anything else, turning to the driver. Drive faster into the venue, I'll handle the follow-up work. Not until the last moment. You would never give up. This had always been the spirit Supreme Alliance conveyed to everyone. As a manager, he felt that he should not lower himself too much. Wasn't it just another round of drinks with the staff? It was fine as long as he could arrive on time. Lin Feng, who had died once, was clearly more reserved. His fighting style also became more conservative. At this moment, Yun Hu, who had been guarding the tower, stopped. He had an empty hand. Chapter 682. Yun Hu's black hair was covered with a huge gaming earpiece. His handsome side profile was calm and composed. Coward, use your method and start fighting. Little Spade will be here soon, he might even be watching our match. As a senior, are you going to lose? Yun Hu's eyes lit up. I'm going to lose? Lin Feng turned. I'm going to show you right now. Some people weren't suited to using psychological methods. But Lin Feng was the complete opposite. After hearing his good brother's words, his entire person changed. When the corners of his mouth curled up, even his face looked arrogant and domineering. Ha, the scum on the other side, come on, I'm going to catch you. Zhu Feng, you sneak attack and tell them. What's wrong with that? Hurry, Tiger, bottom lane. The people on the other side really thought that they were going to team up to take the bottom lane. Who knew that the top lane was still returning to the city? Halfway through, a figure appeared. It was Lin Feng, who had turned invisible. Now that he appeared, he used a big move and a stab. Go. The person who died was speechless. What happened to catching people at the bottom lane? The moment that person finished his sentence. In less than half a minute, another sound effect came from the screen. Double kill. Jungle battle. It turned out that the catch was Yun Hu forcing the people at the bottom lane into the jungle near the top lane. After Lin Feng killed the first person, he turned back to surround the second person with Yun Hu. Some people said that only the Yun Feng duo could execute such a coordination. Chemistry. It was as if he had penetrated into their every move. Neat claps. They continued their ambush. This wasn't an easy win. When the word victory rang out, Lin Feng removed his earpiece, looking at Yun Hu. Tell me, how am I a coward? I don't know how domineering I am. Yun Hu stood up. At first he didn't say anything. Instead, he reached out and pulled the guy in front of him into his arms. He smiled faintly, but it was filled with black-bellied intent. Immerse, you are so handsome I can't describe it. Ha, Tiger, you have good taste. Lin Feng laughed heartily and patted his brother's shoulder. Our 10 years of friendship is because you speak the truth. You must maintain this advantage. The opposing team also took off their headphones and asked the person beside them, is he usually like this? Always. I really didn't expect that I would be killed twice by such a person. My condolences. Don't underestimate someone with a low EQ. The couple's fans looked at each other. Would such a slow person have any bones left after meeting Yunda? However, none of this mattered now. The important thing was that it was a draw with 1 win and 1 loss. Now it all depended on the 5v5. Everyone turned their attention to the dueling area. There was one person missing. If the contestants on the list didn't show up, the match would be automatically judged as the winner. 30 seconds passed. There were no changes to the seats on the opponent's stands. The commentator sighed regretfully and was about to pull the microphone over. There was a swoosh sound. The door swung open. The cameras focused on the youngster they were most familiar with. That person, one hand pressed against the wall, his thin lips pale but his voice was clear. I choose assassin with jungler skills. The equipment in the esports arena was very advanced. Usually, there would be voice recognition equipment. The moment the youngster finished his sentence, a line of words appeared on the big screen along with the sound effect. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.